This is the review of tabloids, where we take an analysis of the major news-making stories on the newspapers in Cameroon and some selected African countries. It's been a very hectic week for journalists as far as news is concerned. We know that beyond the bilingualism week and day, we also have the Youth Day preparations that are well on course, not leaving out the protest in Nkoteng and Banjok, which of course turned very, very sad over there in the central region of the country. President Donald Trump's decision to wipe out the U.S. aid mechanism has also dominated news, with Cameroon's Minister of Public Health making a statement about that. But more importantly, it's in the political sphere, with negotiations going on amongst political parties and other political parties that have already outlined conditions for candidacies ahead of the presidential elections coming up late this year. You should understand that the news is buzzing in many newsrooms, and particularly our colleagues of the press have been very, very busy in delivering them to us, in as much as those of us on radio and TV are also on our feeds concerning information. Without wasting much time, I would like to introduce our regular man on set, Henry Kijan. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Peter. Good morning to all the televiewers of Dash Media.
Yeah, we'll begin with our teaser for today, and the teaser concerns the Social Democratic Front. News that has really generated lots of reactions from across the board, and it pertains to the eligibility conditions for candidacies within the SDF. And one big amount is a bone of contention: 50 million francs CFA. Why 50 million francs CFA as one of the key conditions that the SDF is demanding for candidacies?
Are you asking me that question as
a journalist or National Communication Secretary?
Are you asking it to the journalist or to the National Communication Secretary or to an observer?
I'll ask to the National Communication Secretary.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. I'm happy. It's clear.
It's clear.
Peter, you see, you made mention that it's been making a lot of noise over the social media across the country, etc., etc. And it is good. I like that. You see, Peter, the presidency of a nation is not a village council meeting. To rule a country like Cameroon or any country is not something that you have to take it as if we are at the motor park and want to elect the president of our union of motor park loaders. Let us be very clear with this, because we talk things, at the end of the day, we don't even try to figure out why certain decisions are taken.
Exactly, and that is why you are here to tell us the why. Why 50 million francs?
The problem is not the amount. The problem, first of all, is to understand the procedure to elect a flag bearer for the party. You see, the party text is clear. In an electoral year, when there is an electoral year, when there's an electoral year of presidential election, the party will convene its extraordinary convention to select the party's flag bearer to confront other candidates. That will be during the extraordinary convention. And we should be very clear that there are no primaries when it comes to the selecting the candidate for the presidential election. Primaries are held, when it comes to parliamentary elections, municipal, legislative, or senatorial election.
Yeah,
that's why we have primaries to select, to separate those candidates who are vying. But one thing is very important: the National Executive Committee decides. The debate, we deliberate to come up with such an amount. There are those people are just looking at the 50 million. There are people who proposed 100 million from the floor.
And what was the argument for the various proposals? Let's say, for example, those who proposed 100 million.
In fact, the argument is that the position of the President of the Republic is not something that is not a joke. We should first of all start from there. Listen, when we went for the 10th Ordinary Convention, it was decided that the fee for the candidate should be 7 million francs. But do you know that in the hall, when we're deliberating, people made proposals of 20 million, some said 30 million, some said 10, etc., etc. And then we had to look for a midway. People started shouting. Some people said, no, formally it was 50,000 francs to become the chairman or to go for election for the chairman. There is nowhere in the fundamental laws of the SDF where any amount is mentioned in the text. No amount is mentioned in the text. The National Executive Committee will sit, deliberate, and deem it necessary to put an amount that will help in the running of the convention. You know, it is not a secret how many people contribute for the party. Even in the CPDM, party cards cannot fit the bills of the party or the running cost. Any other political party you know in this country, even across Cameroon, go to the Central African sub-region, go to the West Africa. Party cards, militants or members of the party are the ones contributing for the running of the party. Government subvention is not coming. Go and verify. Ask yourself, go and verify. The media should equally do its job, its homework. Government subvention to political parties is not coming. Even the CPDM doesn't have the government subvention. But there's a difference between the CPDM and the other parties.
Because the CPDM is in power.
The CPDM is in power. They have all the money. If the CPDM has to organize a congress to select their candidates now, or an extraordinary congress if they wish to call it that way, they just need to click their finger. They call 10 business people in Douala, say send us 100 million francs. 100 million francs times 10 is 1 billion.
It's 1 billion.
1 billion to organize their convention or their congress. 1 billion. I said 10. I've just said 10. just around here where we are sitting, you have just 10 billionaires around where we are sitting. They just need to call Bonita Sako and send us 100 million francs. Bonita Sako will send.
He's not a member of the CPDM.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. They just need to call 10. I said 10. Only we are just here in Douala 1. In fact, we are just here in a small, we are just here in about 2,000 meters square or 3,000 meters square. Let me just say we're occupying a position of about 10 hectares of land. You have about 100 billionaires in these 10 hectares of land. The CPDM just need to call them that, okay, send me 100 million francs as your own support. They say support. They will send 100 million francs. That not to talk about the whole of Douala. The whole of Douala, they can contribute 20 billion within the click of a finger. CPDM will organize its convention or its congress. But the other political parties, they don't have the subvention. We are going for an extraordinary convention. If they ask people to contribute now, who will be the ones to contribute? But then, Peter, that is not the problem. The problem is that, remember, during the convention, we said, okay, they said 7 million francs during the convention to elect a new chairman, 7 million francs. People shouted. But do you know that we had candidates who paid 7 million francs? You know that. Do you know that candidates spend more than 7 million francs for their campaigns? Yes. I know it, and we know it. Candidates spend more than 7 million francs. So people think to bring people from the far north to the Adamawa, to the north, and right down to the south, northwest, southwest, littoral, etc., to converge is just a matter of 50,000 francs or 100,000 francs. Even when we hold meetings, when they say the government has given subvention, they sort of give political parties money for elections and so campaigns, they'll give you 15 million francs. 15 million francs is one meeting. It's one rally. 15 million francs is one rally. What is the cost of a sound system? If you want to take easy sound system without publicity, because I know it's easy, will tell you to hire his equipment and so on is 5 million for 2 hours or 3 hours for your meeting. 5 million is burned.
But now, are you saying that?
We are saying that to be a president of a country is not a joke. It's not a joke.
But why can't the party set in these guidelines, probably in its constitution, so that those who are members of the party already know and they start preparing? Because
let me tell
NEC
you,
was last week, and we know that the extraordinary convention will be on the 22nd.
Yes.
The time is running out. And that is why, let me learn, and that is why some disgruntled persons say that this is a move by probably the chairman to sideline some others from participating.
Decides. The chairman is not above the constitution of the party. The chairman is not above the National Executive Committee. The chairman is not above the convention. The convention is the supreme. Let me give you an example. In 2026, Cameroonians will be going to the polls for the parliamentary elections, right?
And municipal elections.
And municipal elections. What is the cost of a caution for the municipal election? 50,000 francs.
Yeah.
Parliamentary is 1 million.
1 million.
Okay. When, another example, Peter, we just came out in the month of September to send our children to school, right? Mm-hmm. You know that schools will start again in September.
In September.
Okay. You have 1 year to be preparing for back to school, right?
Mm-hmm.
People have 5 years. In fact, President Biya even extended another 1 year. So it's 6 years.
But this is not about the...
But listen up, you have 6 years to start preparing to look for your 50,000 francs if you have to. But do you know that the day when they convened the electorate, when people have started preparing for their list, people tell you, I don't have 50,000 francs. People say they don't have 50,000 francs. And some people are still saying that it's expensive. So go to next door, Nigeria. We have to pick a nomination paper.
For the PDP, for example,
the PDP,
which is your sister, 100, which is your sister party.
100 million. APC, that is all Progressive
Congress.
Congress. It's almost the same amount. Go to Ghana and hear what it is. Yes, people are saying that it's expensive. Tinubu was not a poor man.
But that makes now politics for the rich.
No, it doesn't matter. Because some people feel that you are going there to make money for yourself. No, we are going there because you want to transform the lives of the people of the country. What is the fee to become a governor to pick a nomination paper for the PDPs for the gubernatorial position or for local government? People should look at that. Okay, let us put it at 3 million. People will still shout that it is expensive. Some people were even saying that, formerly they were going to elect the national chairman for 50,000 francs. Where did you see that? There is nowhere in the constitution that any amount is mentioned. And like you are saying, why can't they mention an amount that to be?
Yes.
Things are changing. Dynamics are changing. Peter, the cost of cocoyams of yesterday is not the cost of cocoyams today. The cost of a cup of rice.
But the NEC is meeting in various meetings. They can adjust as they can
Peter,
adjust to the realities.
Those things, when the NEC meets, it takes into account the pulse of the party, the temperature of the nation, and the atmosphere of the international community.
But that could also be part of the agenda.
So there are things that can come up as a result of time, of context, and it is debated. It is not something that you just get one morning and start thinking, no. There is no time. That is why I said someone in the house said it needs 100 million francs. Let me tell you, maybe I'll give you a scoop. Yes, let me tell you, I'll give you a scoop. 2 days ago, I was struggling to go and pick some cash from the bank. The national chairman called me, are you free, can we meet? I said, yes, sir. But I'm rushing to the bank to pick some cash. Do you know what he said? He started laughing. He said, but Peter, I'm looking for money because you people have said that candidates should look for 50 million. Then we laughed. He understand. He said he too is looking for money. In fact, that is just an aside to make you understand that there is pressure everywhere.
And that pressure could be double because we understand that the caution set out by LECAM, we all know the amount.
No, we don't need to. The LECAM doesn't decide, or the elections management body in any country doesn't decide on the internal rules and regulations of the party?
No, we are not talking about the internal rules of the party. Of course, you know that every candidate, whether for local, parliamentary or presidential elections, has a non-refundable portion that they pay.
Yes.
So with the SDF setting up its party caution, like I said, it's now a double weight for any candidate that has to go in.
Peter, it's not double weight. Double weight in what way?
Okay,
you are going for.
Okay, let's say for example, the SDF says 50 million francs for you to be a candidate.
Yes, non-refundable.
Non-refundable.
Yes.
And thereafter, you are now the candidate. You still need to look again for maybe if Elekam says, if Elekam says maybe it's 100 million or 50 million, you still have to look again for 50 million or 100 million.
No, you are saying two things. The party says 50 million.
Yes.
Yeah, that is a caution, non-refundable.
Yeah.
And don't forget that beyond that, you need to look for money for your campaign.
That is what I'm saying.
Okay, you need to look for money for your campaign. Do you know that the campaign is even more expensive than the caution? People are looking, campaign, I'll just give you an example. When we went for the ordinary convention, the 10th ordinary convention, they said, oh, 7 million is too much. People spend about 20 million. Yes. People spend about 20, some people spend 15, 14. Some people spend double that amount. I observed a scene where one candidate was giving money to the press openly. Yes. And one journalist called me and said, I take her. I said, no, why not? Take it, it's your money now. If he's giving you, I don't know for what reason he's giving you. I said, take it, it's your money. So people should not look at, people will spend money. People will spend. To campaign is expensive. The caution is even nothing. They talk about 30 million francs for presidential election, right? But how much do we spend? We are talking about billions to spend. You need $2.something million
to carry out a presidential campaign in Cameroon.
Especially in Nigeria.
Yeah.
What does it take to, if you have to organize meetings, the secretariats, the communications, etc., setting up all the campaign headquarters, having meetings, moving around the country. Thank God the Social Democratic Front National Chairman has moved around the country and is moving too many times. And that is why he's designing a project for the country, for the nation. He already has it.
Okay, just before we go, some observers, I read in some newspapers and some political commentators say the setting up or the putting in place of the 50 million francs caution is to protect the integrity of the SDF and not hand it to charlatans. We all saw the crisis which the party went through shortly before the death of the
national chairman,
founding chairman. Before the death of the founding chairman, and some people think that the SDF is trying to protect its integrity and not allow such a thing to happen. How true can that be?
The person who wrote that is his own analysis. I might not delve into that. But you and I know very well that I was discussing with a friend who is not even a member of the SDF. I was discussing with a friend yesterday who is not. I just threw it to him. I said, what is your reading? People have been talking, what is your reading about what you hear, 50 million francs? No, he said, it was a francophone. He said, normal. He even gave me another idea. He said, look, you people be very careful. He said, if they put in even 100,000 francs, all of us will go there. All of us will go, I want to contest as the national chairman. Then he said, do you think you can rule the country? Anybody can just come and say he wants to rule the country, or he wants to become the chairman of the party, even not even ruling the country? Listen, even this thing that we say 50,000 francs for municipal and legislative elections, it should even change. 50,000 francs should change. It should change. Yes. I suggest
that will make politics for the rich.
It is not a matter of the rich. Peter, let me tell you, I know people who drink beer every day, at least 10 bottles,
and there are others who don't drink beer.
Yes, and they do other things. That is even more than the beer. If they think that they have the political ambition, they could start keeping their money. It is planned. It is not like you are getting up in the morning and then you hear that on the September 12th, your children will be going to school. That's when you start thinking whether they will have uniforms or have books or school fees. Now we are talking about someone or a party that has been planning for presidential election after the last one. Remember that when the national chairman was elected in 2023, he did a tour of the nation. It was planned. So you don't get up in the morning and then you think you can just become the president of the country. Some people are just dreaming, but people are planning to rule the country, to help Cameroonians with their vision. If they ask any other candidate, okay, show us now you want to be a presidential candidate, right? Show us what you have been planning for.
But that would be within your internal status.
Not to us. Not to us.
I think
before we debate, you should come with your vision, so that in the party we can say, okay, Mr. Chairman or Mr. Presidential Candidate, this is how we think we have to work. So it should not call for noise. It's not call for noise. Go to Benin. What is the cost? Ghana.
We'll talk about that. We'll continue this discussion some other time. Time now we look into what the papers have for us.
Peter, wait, one second. Yeah. I thought of something.
Yeah.
If you look at the party's text in section 11C1, it states that the National Executive Committee prepares the convention. So that is it. It tells you the National Executive prepares the convention, and so that is what they were preparing.
So the caution.
So everything is prepared there.
You used to prepare.
You have to prepare there. Okay. It is not mentioned anywhere in the text any amount. So the NEC decided as such, and it was applauded.
All right, we'll now look into what the papers have for us. Let's get into Central Africa, Cameroon, after the break. The Guardian Post is making a projection into the 2025 presidential elections and is asking whether President Paul Biya is preparing arrest of culprits of the COVID gates and AFCON embezzlement scandals to fuel presidential bid. The paper observes that in the last 2 years, President Paul Biya has been reiterating his resolve to arrest and bring to book those who are stealing from the state purse. But since then, there will be no action on ground. The paper is checking whether with barely few months to the presidential elections in October, we could be heading off for some spectacular arrests and legal battles between some suspects involved in the COVID-19 gate and AFCON embezzlement scandals. That is what the Guardian Post talks on its major story today. You'll find that on page 3 of the paper.
Yes.
Now you talk now as the panel, as your consultant.
Okay. Sure. I don't speak now as somebody who has a political inclination. No. Yeah. Well, I think technically, well, I don't know if the Guardian Post has an insight.
Insight, yeah.
Okay, but then technically, it will not be correct to arrest people. If you have to arrest people now, when it concerns COVID gate, they will arrest at least 200 people. Yes, they will arrest at least 200 people, not one man. It's not a matter of arresting one man. There's a list of so many people involved in that COVID gate. But then what will be the repercussions? What will be the repercussions if you arrest 100 people? Plot the metrics. Plot the metrics in terms of electioneering. You see that 100 people could be 2,000 or 3,000 votes. It could be 2,000 to 3,000 votes for President Biya, if he counts on them. Because those people who are going to be arrested are people who are even working with him.
But Cameroonians demand answers concerning...
Yes, the Cameroonian demands answers. So I am saying that technically, they can arrest them. They need the answer. They prepare the report. They submit it, right? The audit
the audit bench of the Supreme Court
is handling it. So... it could have a backslash if you start doing arrest now. Arresting people now might not be a good move.
Politically?
Politically, it might not be a good political move.
But it can also...
It can equally be a good social move. Now,
it can also boost the
candidate's image.
The candidate's image.
It cannot boost the candidate's image. Because it cannot boost the candidate's image. On the contrary, it would go... In fact, people will not say, finally, they will say, no, you want to use it as a political move, so rubbish it. It will not boost the candidate. It will have a backslash.
Okay. We'll try to keep an eye on that and see whether the Guardian Post projections could come to light. We now move to Mutation. Mutation says that negotiations are in course. That is a view of the president of the Front for the Democrat Cameroonais, Denis Emilien Atarana. For the past few days, he's become one of the key subject matters as far as the pre-election issues are concerned, with some rumors alleging that he is already in negotiation with some political party leaders who are ineligible to represent their parties, and that he might endorse them within his party to become a candidate.
Is his party having some? Okay,
yeah. He has municipal councillors
in the center.
Yeah, in the center.
Yeah. Well, the negotiations have been going on. Yes, we know. We know that there are some candidates who find themselves in an uncomfortable position of eligibility, are struggling to have a platform on which they might be endorsed to be as flag bearer or to run for the presidential election. If negotiations are going on, good and fine. Now, it will be at the level of the person who finally decides. When I'm talking about that, I'm talking about Electoral Constitutional Council, who decides about who is eligible. So, yes, it could be a good move. We saw what happened with Cabral or with Univer.
Yeah, and
we saw what happened
with,
Professor Kumvondo. We saw what happened with Cabral and Kona, though the marriage has hit the rock. But if negotiations are going on, I know who you are talking about. It will be very difficult, especially for Cabral, who is already in conflict, with Kona, who are already at the courts, to start looking for another platform. And because even if he abandons it, they will tell you, no, you are in court, wait. You abandoned the other party. If now you resign, say you have resigned from that party, you're looking for a party. They'll say, no, you are in court. And then for the MRC situation, I know you are certainly making allusion to that. However, if they find a platform, that's good and fine for their political ambition.
All right, still on Mutation. Mutation looks into the recent recruitment of university lecturers and says that a group of disgruntled candidates who were not retained are planning a protest. We are now going back to this repetitive method of candidates who are not happy with university recruitments staging strikes.
Yes, but I think recruitment generally is based on the needs, right? If the Ministry of Higher Education decided that, okay, we have to recruit maybe 1,000 lecturers for this year based on the needs of the different departments and faculties and so on, or schools, and some people are not retained, I don't know for what reason, but if the people feel that, well, there was some fishy game in the selection process, that too is another issue. But I think they should just have hope, knowing that, well, because some of them are still teaching.
Yes.
Are teaching, waiting to be, finally confirmed. They should keep working. It is not the end of the world. As people who have reached the summit, the academic summit in their profession, in their respective fields, I think they should break through. It will one day come, but they should not put it as if it's a problem. Those who have been retained, like I say, the government will recruit based on the needs and based on the budget of the year.
The budget of the year.
Yes, to run. So maybe they'll plan for. And don't forget that many too are going on retirement, so there's still possibility of
carrying out other recruitments, upcoming recruitments.
Absorbing other candidates or other lecturers to the university.
We now look at the Post-Weekender. The Post-Weekender is our next paper for review, and it takes us to the central region where it was a very, very violent in the course of the week. One death, several injured as Sosukan workers clashed with police in Koteng and Banjok. Governor Naseri Paul Biya promises calm after dialogue with aggrieved workers. It was a very tense 48 hours in that part of the country.
Yes, there was a standoff 48 hours that led to the death of one person. You see,
and also destruction of properties, more than 150 hectares of sugarcane plantation
and you see,
destroyed.
Peter, you see, when workers, especially plantation workers, go on strike, it is damaging. And you know the conditions under which plantation workers are treated. We are talking about decent work condition. Mm-hmm. You are not treated well, and that thing can even come from one person. It can come from one person. It can even come from the, the foreman. It can come from the human resource. Yeah. It can even come from the manager or from any other manager. Yes, with the stroke of his pen, he said, no. You see, I'm a child of the plantation, so I know how plantation operates. Sometimes the person will take you because they are working for hours. They will tell you that, no, instead of 8 hours work, they will give you 4 hours. 4 hours. It is frustrating. And then, you have different plantations have their different risk. Mm-hmm. You have people who deal with chemicals and so on and so forth. Yeah. Especially when you deal with chemical weedings and so on, you find out you need to have some milk, and so they don't give you, or if they give, the person who is in control will not give you, will not distribute to the workers. It can breed contempt, and finally you hear if one person is sick because of a pulmonary disease and move to the health post, it becomes something, and if the person dies, you see, it generates anger. You see, the people develop revolting spirit. Mm-hmm. So the problem is a matter of decent job in the plantations. Our plantation workers are not treated fairly. Be they plantation in banana plantation, palm plantation, rubber sugarcane, whatever. You see, they are not treated fairly. And it should stop. These are people who make money for the country. They make money for the nation, mm-hmm. For the company itself. So they should be given some decent treatment. Plantation life is not easy for those who have lived in the plantation setting. Yeah. It's not easy. I think the governor has actually abated the situation, but the company should review its way of handling its workers.
All right, we now move to Cameroon Insider. Cameroon Insider on its top story says, after halt of U.S. funding, HIV/AIDS, tuberculosis and malaria services still on. According to Dr. Manauda Malashi, the Minister of Public Health, he highlights that government has put in place immediate short-term as well as long-term measures to mitigate the effects of the closure for USAID funding to Cameroon for the treatment of these critical diseases. You'll get that story on page 9 of Cameroon Insider. Does that put to rest the anxiety which it created over the past days?
Yes, it will have some effects. I think President Trump talked about suspension for 90 days, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm surprised because I spoke with Philippe Ansili. Yeah. Yes, Philippe Ansili, he talked about the assistance that I've given, 250 million, I think that was for 2023, mm-hmm. 2023, and in fact 2024 ending even. You see, it's a lot of money that they pump into the country. Now, and they have been projects, they went to Adamawa, they went to other areas across and so on. But it will affect, because that money is that assistance or that aid is part of the national budget. Mm-hmm. That aid is part of the national budget. So how are we going to? But I know there can be some measures to cushion the effect of the deficit because of the withdrawal of such assistance. But that still equally calls to mind the fact that we should equally think about preemptive measures in case these things do not come. And it cannot only be that particular one alone, or that's too much. In case we don't have, what do we do? Who do we turn to? Because you look at other countries, it's not only, it says the world.
Yeah, it's true that we are talking about multilateralism,
yes.
But I'm tempted to ask this question. Is it time for countries to start looking inwards within themselves? Because the dependence on other countries, particularly the USA, has really come with very, very unpleasant news, especially with the coming of Trump. Now, should African countries in particular start saying that, okay, fine, it's time that we start addressing our health policies with our own realities and probably forget about receiving foreign aid for that?
If our laboratories are well enough to carry out research, to fight HIV and AIDS or tuberculosis and malaria, then that is why you are correct. Is it time for us to start thinking how we could circumvent that foreign aid? Okay, what was the aid to Cameroon for HIV, tuberculosis, and malaria? If we could know the amount, then now we will budget and buy those things and buy them rather than depending on them for free. We buy them, and of course they will sell. So we should equally know that in as much as we are depending on free food, free meal,
or maybe diversifying the partners.
Yes, so we should be thinking of diversifying partners to be able to get those assistance, while equally thinking on how we could boost our own industry, to be able to produce those things, or our research laboratories and so on and so forth.
Talking about the national ID card, Cameroon Insider says it's possible this February. Next week, on the 17th of February, is the date that has been announced to begin the production of the new format ID card, which of course comes within 48 hours and will last for 15 years.
That is good news. That is good news. You see, I always tell you, Peter, that I don't move my ID card.
So you're scared that if it gets missing?
I'm scared that if it gets missing, I'm finished. So I keep it at home. If they arrest me because I don't have an ID card, I will call, they will bring it.
You tell them that
I'll tell them
I'm Cajun Henry.
I'm Cajun Henry, right? Well, it is funny because we are talking about 7 million or more than about 10 million Cameroonians who don't have ID cards.
ID cards, yeah.
It's true. About 10 million Cameroonians who are not having an ID card, who have applied, have not been able to have it.
But some also have those ID cards, but
they did not collect.
Yes, they did not collect them. And they are lying there, follow police stations.
In hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
In hundreds of thousands ID cards across the world, across the country. So we should not blame the government for no reason. Yes, there might be difficulties for the cards to be produced, but when they produce, people don't go and pick them up. I went and visited the radio station some days ago. I saw bundles of ID cards. There was an organization that came up that was created. They move along the streets and they are picking ID cards. When you pick an ID card, you channel it to that organization, and then they will make announcements for people to come and pick their ID cards. They don't. In fact, they even expire there in those offices. And another thing is, like the officials used to explain, people give faulty information.
Yes.
That is why you say, I apply my ID card.
cases of double identity. And that was why the police boss Bangangele was saying that those who have cases of double identity should begin indicating so that they start tackling them before next week.
Yes, so that they will tackle them. And don't be surprised, you will still have problems in that. So, well, we think it's a good thing. I know the euphoria will be much. Yes, people want to be the first to have the ID card.
To have the ID card
in 48 hours.
Yes.
Then those people who think, what is the cost again?
10,000 francs.
10,000 francs for 15 years.
Yeah, for 15 years.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
At least the government is providing that social service.
Let's take a break and we move to West Africa to look at the situation in Ghana and Nigeria. Stay with us. The 2025 budget for Nigeria is on at 54 trillion naira, but the Punch reveals that experts are divided over the race. Federal government adds 4.5 trillion naira to agriculture and infrastructure funds. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has submitted the reviewed project as federal government votes more funds for BOI and other services. Do you think that the current situation in Nigeria justifies the increase of the budget? We know that the past few months have been very, very difficult for the government to tackle some very critical corporate issues. Inflation, high cost of fuel, more recently, telecom price hikes. Are all these factors necessary for the increase of the budget?
Well, I think so. 54
trillion naira.
Trillion naira is about 22,000 billion.
Yeah.
And so if you give us that money, you see, I don't know when we'll get to that level.
22 trillion in CFAs.
22 trillion in CFAs.
Now we're around 7 trillion, 7.5 trillion.
That's huge money.
Yeah.
But I think the challenges that Nigeria is facing, they are enormous. And the budget is probably a reflection of the problems of the Nigerian people. Don't forget that, okay, you mentioned agriculture.
Yes.
Nigerian agriculture is having a serious problem.
Yeah, with food crisis.
With food crisis.
Yeah.
So they want to abate, in fact, they want to...
4.5 trillion addition
to what
was initially
programmed. Because there's a serious problem of food in Nigeria. But let us not only look at that. Because it's not the import. Mm-hmm. How is the Nigerian government trying to substitute import? What is the policy in import substitution? To produce rice or grains, because grain is highly consumed in most of these countries. And we're talking about, you know that rice comes from Cameroon, they import through Cameroon, yes, to Nigeria, to other places.
Particularly our Ndov rice is highly solicited
in Nigeria. But what are they doing to make sure that they produce these goods rather than heavy dependence on import? So I think it is a big challenge, but will the budget allocation be able to handle the problems of agriculture? I mean the one that has been allocated for agriculture and maybe livestock.
We'll try to check about that. Already the reviewed budget has been tabled before Parliament, and we'll see how Parliament will negotiate about that. Another interesting story this morning on page 2 of the Punch: transporters, Nigerian Labour Congress chapters, and Trade Union Congress reject highway tolling.
Yeah, it is everywhere. Yeah. You know, especially transporters. They play a very big role. You know, without transport, goods will not move. They will not move from one location to another, and people will not feed. Yeah. They are playing a very critical role in the economic chain. Mm-hmm. You know, food chain as well. Just every aspect of human life is centered around transport. Because people move, goods move. They move to the house, out to the household. So I think it's an important thing they handle it before it overspills.
We now move to Ghana, where the new publisher newspaper takes a focus on one man who is a very popular face across the African continent. He's no other than John Dumelo. John Dumelo, we should know that John Dumelo is a member of Parliament out there in Ghana, Ghanaian actor, and one of Africa's most celebrated farmers. That's one thing which some people don't know about him. And this time around, John Dumelo grabs deputy minister in Mahama's new list of 13. The new list was submitted yesterday. Mm-hmm.
Because he has cut down the number of he has cut down the number of ministerial positions.
Yes, and John Dumelo has been projected to become the deputy minister of agriculture. Following his excellent
breakthrough in agriculture. But that is something interesting. So he will know what to do and how to tackle the problems of the Ghanaian people. Yes, it's just like saying you put a square peg in a square hole. Yeah. So if Dumelo is going in as deputy minister, he will probably help with the minister to make sure they already know the problems. That is why he moved into agriculture. So he's been handling these problems even at the micro level. Yes. So now he's probably going to handle it at the macro level. And
probably share his vision.
His vision for the nation. You know, agriculture is the backbone of most economies in sub-Saharan Africa, without talking about the subsoil. Yeah.
It's just great to see how John Dumelo is evolving from an actor to a VIP farmer, member of parliament, and in a few days,
an astute.
He could just be a minister, a deputy minister in charge of agriculture out there in John Mahama's cabinet. We'll take a break and we move to East Africa, where all is not well with William Ruto. We'll find out why.
Again.
The Standard newspaper from Kenya says, "See no evil, hear no." According to the paper, amidst unresolved cases of abductions, killings, a crumbling justice system, confusion in education and healthcare crisis, President William Ruto, like the proverbial ostrich, has decided to bury his head in the sand.
Oh, come on.
And
Well,
the paper believes that he's not doing much.
He's not doing much,
Yeah.
yes. That's why burying your head in the sand means
Yeah.
you are hiding.
Yeah, you're hiding.
But the whole of your body is out.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not easy with the Kenyans. Now we're talking about crime waves. We hardly hear much about crimes in Kenya. When you look at, if you've ever been to Nairobi, like myself, you understand that they have a very serious, very strong security surveillance system in Nairobi.
Mm-hmm.
That is to say, you have surveillance cameras on the streets everywhere. If you move into their data system, you see that just every nooks and crannies is monitored. But now the question is, why the crime waves, abductions, with this huge, because the abduction, most of it is in the cities. Eh?
Yes, it's in the cities.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you don't go to the village to abduct, you abduct people in the villages, what for? But the city is highly controlled. I remember I was driving from Jomo Kenyatta Airport to the Continental Hotel where I was lodged. You see the radar, mm-hmm. They're controlling every move. Every move is controlled. But what happens with the security apparatus? I watched, how do you call this, a guy who used to work with CNN. And he went into he was doing a report. I watched a report where he was doing it, and the director of the police director took him there and observed. The man was seeing every aspect, and was wondering why there is still problem. Just like our own situation here. I think we need to call the police boss and find out what has become of the next security cameras that they were supposed to place in town. It is unbelievable that a town like the capital should have high crime waves, just like Yaoundé.
Yeah, just like Yaoundé. Yeah.
Nairobi should not be having that. So it is not. In fact, it doesn't sound well.
And one grievance which some observers in Kenya say is that William Ruto is more concerned with diplomacy,
with
foreign policy issues,
and leaving domestic affairs,
and leaving domestic affairs. Yes. Even issues concerning his Kenya Kwanza coalition.
That's it. So, well, it's like you leave your house and you are going to
your house is burning.
Your house is burning. You need to chase rats. No.
We'll now take a break and we look at our last newspaper in Southern Africa. The situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo remains precarious. Relative calm has returned to Goma. The International Red Cross continues with the burying of corpses, and religious leaders have decided to play their own part in calling political actors to find a solution to the crisis. But in Southern Africa, there's a big question as to the 14 soldiers who died in the Democratic Republic of Congo, a situation that has sparked off a diplomatic row between Kenya and South Africa. On Tuesday, South Africa's Minister of Defense was before the parliament, and parliamentarians, he was really on the hot seat.
They grilled him.
They grilled him, some would say roasted him. He was roasted in parliament, and with a very big question. First of all, what was the mission of South African soldiers
to the
DRC? But let's look at what Sowetan says. Sowetan says arrival of soldiers remains. Families are still in the dark. Relatives of some of the 14 members who died in the DRC says that the army has not told them anything about the return of the bodies. Corporal Mwagi's family prepares for funeral, but know nothing about Army Chief's Tuesday statement in Parliament.
Yeah, you know, aggrieved families, when you send your child, you know, and their child doesn't come back, others are coming back, you know, full-bodied, and your own is coming in a casket, it is not well. Yeah. And again, once there is information blackout, when there's an information blackout, the family is worried. Yeah. So I think President Ramaphosa should be able to make sure they clarify. What was their mission? That is it. There's a good question. There's a what are we doing there?
Ramaphosa says that South Africa is leading the Southern African Development Community Force to support the Congolese government against M23. This position is not accepted by Paul Kagame, yes, who believes that South Africa is not playing a peacekeeping role.
Instead, it's playing a warlike role.
Instead, South Africa is playing a warlike role and is being on the offensive. But now, back at home, Ramaphosa continues to face lots of pressure. South Africans are really asking that what is the interest for soldiers to be in the DRC at this point in time?
And to be on the forefront. So, they died. How did they die? That is to say, we could give President Kagame reason to, as he says now, their role, instead of playing a peacekeeping role or a mediation, bring peace, you are sending people at the front line. You die at the front line now. They were not bombed in their barracks. So it means that they were fighting.
Yeah. But now for the families are demanding questions from the Ministry of Defense, with the Ministry of Defense and the Defense Chief of Staff under pressure to resign, especially following their grilling in Parliament.
The Parliament, yes, and it is easier for them to resign. It is easier for them to resign. If it's not well, you see, they are forcing you to resign. It's not the president. For the president, well, you are there. Yeah. He might resign. Well, it is now up to him to do that.
All right, yeah, and it will be on that note that we end this edition of the Review of Tabloids, where we have spoken extensively on some of the news-making events in Cameroon and some selected African countries. Thank you very much, Henry.
It's okay, Peter.
And of course, Monday will be another day. We know that Monday will be Youth Day Eve.
Yes, Monday will be Youth Day Eve, torchlight procession and so on.
President Paul Biya will make
probably
a speech.
Address the youth. Sure. It reminds us of our own days. It reminds us of our own days. So we wish the young people a happy Youth Week as it is ending, and happy Youth Day in advance.
Viewers, thank you very much for joining us. At exactly midday will be Journal du Cameroon. Don't go away.